I'm out political canvassing, right?
Okay.
I'm over here looking for my next house.
Okay.
And these two dudes come up with their dog and tell me, what's in your backpack?
Okay.
And I said, what do you mean what's in my backpack?
Okay.
Well, I thought I was getting robbed, dude.
I understand. I'm just saying.
And then
not robbing you. How you doing?
Not bad.
You're right.
Are you his boss? Yes. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the only concern is, man, look, some people just called in, right? They said that you were going up door to door, like checking door handles and stuff, okay?
Well, I'm not checking. I am going door to door.
We are.
Absolutely. You guys know the law of play.
Alright guys, pay close attention because what you're about to witness is a situation that perfectly captures a growing concern across the country, the expanding power of law enforcement and the constant debate over civil rights. The video begins with a man simply walking through a neighborhood while engaging in political canvassing. That's right, he's going door to door speaking with residents, something that is widely recognized as a protected activity under the First Amendment. But within moments, everything changes. Two officers approach him, questioning his actions and demanding to know what's inside his backpack. From the start, the tone feels tense, almost confrontational. Instead of calmly verifying the situation, the interaction quickly turns into a challenge over authority and rights. What should have been a simple conversation soon begins spiraling into a dispute over legality, identification, and the limits of police power.
Canvass in the area. That's absolutely something you're allowed to do, okay? Some of those people just called in, right, because they're concerned, because they thought you were like jingling door handles, and they're worried and they're concerned because there's been some break-ins in the area recently.
They need to not come up and demand I open anything. Come up with two dogs threatening me. Like, that is not okay, dude.
That's not okay. That's definitely not okay. And I think I can understand both sides of what's happening here.
I can understand them too, but when I told them I'm politically canvassing,
they're not you guys. You know what I mean? They're not the cops.
So here's the deal, okay? So you got to remember, right? You're not in any kind of attire showing that you're politically canvassing, or you're in a video game T-shirt, some headphones, some sunglasses, and a backpack and ball shorts, right? So
that's not illegal.
No, it's not. I'm just explaining to you, right? People might perceive what you're doing, right, is illegal, like hot prowling, right? That is a law and it is a violation. You can't go on people's properties. Anytime you pass a public sidewalk and it's somebody's private property, that is trespassing, right? That's people's concern right now.
If I were to remain,
our job is to figure out what's going on, right? All we need to know is your name, what you're putting. If you have anything to say, hey, I'm politically canvassing, cool. That way we can go back to them and tell them the gentleman's just politically canvassing. He showed us. We have sufficient, information to say, you know what, that's all he's doing. But in the interest of justice and for public, right, that's their request, and that's why we're doing our due diligence.
Well,
okay.
I mean, respectfully, I know my rights. I will read.
Okay.
They can request all they want, but to alleviate their concern, my name is Ron, and I work for.
Okay.
Am I being detained?
Right.
Now here's where things start getting intense. The officers claim that several residents called the police, saying the man had been walking from house to house and possibly checking door handles. Naturally, that kind of report raises concerns, especially in neighborhoods that have recently experienced break-ins. But the man immediately clarifies what he's actually doing: political canvassing. A completely lawful activity. The officers even acknowledge that canvassing is allowed. Yet despite recognizing that fact, they continue pressing him for personal identification. Their reasoning? They say they need to verify who he is so they can reassure the concerned residents. On the surface, that might sound reasonable. But the deeper issue here is whether police actually have the legal authority to demand identification when no crime has been committed. And that question quickly becomes the center of this escalating conflict.
Now you ask for trespassing because you were on people's properties. So if you want to go down that road, we just need your name, date of birth, and we'll check you, make sure you're not a wanted person, and be done and over with.
I'm so sorry. Where was he at where he was trespassing? I'm so sorry.
He was at people's doors that he was knocking. That's when you cross somebody's threshold to their property line, right? That is trespassing. When you're not on a public
Enter
sidewalk,
or remain unlawfully.
Yes.
I never entered or remained unlawfully.
Hold on, Ron, calm down.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm just trying to understand.
Sure.
We're going and knocking on people's doors.
No, I understand that. Yeah.
So, I'm sorry. So we're not allowed to knock.
First Amendment right.
Ron, calm down.
I'm sorry.
We're not allowed to walk onto someone's door and knock on your door.
Correct, because it's their private property. So
Okay,
so like right now we're on a public sidewalk. Where he's standing is technically private property. Somebody maintains that lawn, somebody cares for that lawn. This building probably, chances are, is who owns that, right? However, most people aren't going to call in and say, hey, you're trespassing, right? But because of the nature and how everything went down, right, and their confrontation, their disturbance, whatever it is that they got into, I wasn't there, right? You know I wasn't there. It was you and them, right?
Well, how are you going to convince a jury?
Right. So the allegation right now, right, is that, right? Very simple. All we do is verify who you are, ensure that all you're doing is canvassing.
I have a Fourth Amendment protection.
Right. Okay. If you'd like to go down that road, we can go down and we'll take you to jail for trespassing. If that's what the road you want to go down. I'm trying to prevent that, alleviate all that by just verifying who you are. Very simple.
I committed no crime.
When you're trespassing, that is a crime.
No, if anybody ever told me to leave their property, I left, and that wasn't today.
Okay, it doesn't matter. You still can't just trespass on people's properties. It's private property. If you don't own it, it's owned by somebody else, right? Like the grass you're standing on. If somebody called and said, "Hey, that guy's trespassing,"
So
I have
then
to identify you and issue you a warning, and then
a picture is
okay?
sufficient.
What was that?
A picture is sufficient
Picture?
for a warning. You can take my picture and say
No,
you
that's
did.
not sufficient. We need a name and date of birth because we have to issue you a formal trespass warning.
So under threat of
Saying
arrest, if I do not give you my
it's not a
name,
threat, okay.
So if I do not give you my
it is
name,
a
will you?
promise, because now you're
that you'll
obstructing.
arrest
If
me.
you're trespassing, and you don't give us your information. Now it's obstruction.
If I do not give you my name, you'll arrest me.
Listen, we don't want to go down that road.
I know, but I'm just asking you.
I am being as reasonable with you as I can be, okay?
And I
can just
want to
simply-
comply.
Listen, okay? When
I
you
want
go
to
on
comply,
somebody's
but-
private property, okay? The city of Billings, right, requires we identify the person to issue them a warning, saying, "Hey, sir, you've been warned. Please do not trespass."
And the
on this
Supreme
property."
Court has ruled that a picture is sufficient.
Ron, I need you to hold on for a second. This
Yeah.
is my program organizer.
Okay,
Would you
perfect.
mind just talking
Yes,
to her for a second?
no problem.
I want legal representation.
Hello, this is Officer Diaz. Who am I speaking with? Good. I'm doing well. We're just out here because there was reports of some kind of hot prowling going on where, what's your name?
But they're false reports.
My name is.
Thank you.
We work
What's
for. Ron, he works with.
Start getting even more serious. The officers tell the man that if he simply provides his name and date of birth, the situation will be resolved quickly. They say they just want to verify that he isn't a wanted person, and then they can inform the concerned neighbors that everything is fine. But the man refuses to comply. Not because he's hiding something, but because he believes giving his identification would violate his Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable searches and seizures. The officers respond with a warning that refusing to provide identification could lead to arrest for trespassing or obstruction. That's when the encounter shifts from a casual questioning to something far more aggressive. Suddenly, the threat of jail is on the table, and the man is forced to decide whether to stand firm on his constitutional rights or comply to avoid being taken into custody.
Ryan. So I guess Brian? Ron. I guess Ron was doing some political canvassing.
Yes, that's what we do.
And they were knocking on doors and so forth, which they're allowed to do, right? However,
crime.
When you trespass on somebody's private property, it's trespassing. So most people aren't going to call in that you came to solicit and do all that stuff, right? At the end of the day, like I explained all that, that's all we're trying to do.
I'm going to give up my rights. He just said I haven't committed any crime. I have no obligation to identify.
Look, real quick,
That's what he said.
It's Ron, right?
But if he's going to threaten me with arrest, then I will sue them for a violation.
So,
standing
really quickly,
is
Ron,
like
let me just clear this up really quickly, okay?
Somebody maintains the grass.
Billings City
Somebody
Code has a
maintains
thing
that
just called
property, and it's
prowling.
That's fine. I just need to know if I do not give my name, will you arrest me?
If Ron is
Okay,
not
thank you.
cooperate,
No,
I don't know
okay.
what company you work for.
Am I free to go now?
Not want to continue
Not right now,
that.
right? Just Billings City
So
Code
what
for
reasonable
prowling.
articulable suspicion do you have that I... Trespassing is when you enter and remain unlawfully. Nothing about me knocking on their door was unlawful.
I appreciate you explaining the trespass to me, okay? That's really helpful. Thank you. Okay?
Like I said, most
I'm talking about the
people in
situation
reasonable
is Billings City
expectations
Code,
don't care
okay?
that you
But
come
as
to
to
their
with
door.
prowling, you kind of already explained to
Didn't want to say anything.
me why you're here. You're politically
And I have my
canvassing, right?
boss, so there we go.
This next moment is critical. The man calmly asks the officers a direct question. If he refuses to give his name, will he be arrested? Instead of giving a clear answer, the officers continue repeating that they need his identification in order to issue a formal trespass warning. According to them, simply taking his photograph would not be sufficient. The man disagrees, referencing court rulings that suggest identification is not always required unless a lawful detention exists. To complicate matters further, he calls his program organizer on the phone to seek guidance. While speaking with the organizer, he explains that he has not committed any crime and believes the officers are attempting to force him into surrendering his rights. Meanwhile, the officers continue justifying their actions by citing city codes and their responsibility to investigate complaints from residents.
Political canvassing is my First Amendment right.
Okay.
I am exercising my First Amendment right.
So, like, as part of like that Billings City Code requiring,
because of that,
we just need to identify.
Can you get me that Billings City Code?
Would you like me to show it to you?
Yeah.
I don't want a person identify him,
Here you go,
be
boss.
done with it, and send him on his way.
You can even read it if you would like.
Being difficult and not wanting to give his name. So that's kind of where we're at.
Oh, I'm a law-abiding individual practicing my First Amendment right, though.
Sorry.
Absolutely. Right,
So,
but part of the problem
absolutely,
is
absolutely.
People came and they described it, right? They described it as you were coming in and you were like making.
But that's why
doorways,
you
right?
do due diligence and you come and get the second side of the story and you find out that my boss is here and I'm exercising my First Amendment right.
We're just trying
So
to
now,
assist
so what crime have I committed?
because I'm trying to complete and make sure, right? Like obviously, yeah.
What does my name have to do with any of that?
Verify it, right? For us to be able to
And that's what we want to leave it
verify
as, very
and
simple.
confirm,
Just be like, hey,
right,
man,
that you are here and what
cautious.
you're doing is
People don't want
politically.
I just told you, do you have any reason to believe that is not why I am here? Other than what those people exactly. If you don't know, how are you going to convince a judge?
Shifts from legal theory to real-world consequences. The officers insist that entering someone's property without permission constitutes trespassing. But the man continues arguing that knocking on a door is part of everyday social interaction and protected political speech. His boss eventually arrives and confirms that the man is indeed working as a political canvasser. At this point, the officers clearly understand that no burglary or criminal activity is taking place. Yet the confrontation continues. Why? Because the officers remain focused on identifying him. From their perspective, confirming his identity would close the case and satisfy the complaint that brought them there. But from the man's perspective, complying would set a dangerous precedent, one where citizens are forced to identify themselves even when they have done nothing illegal.
Because here's the thing, man, is we don't necessarily know for sure yet.
Ron, we are not trying to antagonize these guys. They're trying to do their jobs. Someone call the
pass the
police.
phone
Like if
over
you
to
were to
Ron
call the
so you
police
can have
in
a
your
conversation.
area and tell them it's the same thing, they're going to come and check it out. That what they said to you was not
She's
okay,
gonna
but
talk to
trying
you
to
afterwards.
figure out the
She'll also talk to you.
situation. We've got to try to stay calm for them. They're trying to not arrest you. They're trying to
Literally,
trying to
that's all
get to
we're
the
trying to
bottom
do,
of
man.
who we are so that they can just
I believe in my
let them
rights. That's
know.
why I'm out politically canvassing, exercising my First Amendment right. And I've just asked, am I going to be arrested if I do not give my name? He said no. What's your answer?
Okay, so
Since you know that I'm politically canvassing and
here's the
not
deal.
doing that code.
here's the deal, okay? Since you're being less than forthcoming and there's bigger problems that are plaguing our city in the interest of justice and the safety of the community, we're not going to waste our time with you anymore, okay?
I want to go home.
But
Thank
the
you.
reality is, okay,
Alright, and this is the turning point of the entire encounter. The man repeatedly asks the same simple question: if he refuses to identify himself, will he be arrested? The officers avoid giving a straight answer for several moments. Instead, they continue explaining their reasoning and emphasizing that they are just trying to do their job. Eventually, however, the tone changes. After realizing the situation isn't escalating into a clear crime and that time is being wasted, the officers finally decide to walk away. They explain that there are bigger issues facing the city and that they are no longer going to pursue the matter. Just like that, the confrontation ends. No arrest. No citation. No trespass warning. The man remains free to continue his canvassing, exactly what he had been doing from the very beginning.
Hello guys, welcome back, and again you can see this, I am doing live trading. ओके गाइस, मिलते हैं आपसे। एंड टुडेज बिग प्रॉफिट।